Thanks for joining me this afternoon to talk about January library lessons for your elementary library. I'm Laura Trapp, the Trapp librarian in the blog world, and I'm here because I want to help you make your library the center of your school. I want to help you start off 2023 with a bang in your school library. I want to thank you for joining me. And if you are watching the replay, thank you also for joining me. And I wish each and every one of you a very happy new year and a happy start to this new year. Today, I want to talk about lessons for January in your elementary school library. And I don't know about you, sometimes I'm dragging my feet around this time of year. I've enjoyed the winter break. It's hard to think about going back. I know some of you start tomorrow, maybe you started today. Some of you have told me that you start next week. So whatever the case, I always found myself a little bit discombobulated with the new year starting. So I have something really easy for you to start off that's going to be engaging for your students and really your whole school community. And before I move on to that, I wanted to point out that I have a blog post. So I'm looking to the side sometimes to make sure I'm not missing anything, but I'll share the link to that in the comments after I'm finished. I should have put it in there already, but I didn't get it. Okay, so the first lesson that I recommend you start out with right when you head back, whether it's tomorrow or next week, is a lesson for everyone on reading resolutions. And it's simple, low prep, can be really engaging. And it's a great way to refocus all of us on reading in the new year. And it's also a great way to get everybody in your school excited about maybe new books that you've received in the last few months or overlooked books. You can really tweak this however you want to work for your school and your school community. I like to put up a Happy New Year bulletin board with reading resolutions. And then I like to set up kind of like a book tasting, lots of different categories of books around, book displays. And you'll probably have your regular library book displays for the new year. You might have polar animals, you might have winter sports, Martin Luther King, that kind of thing. But anything that'll work for you. So a lot of times I had new books that had come in the last month or two, and I hadn't really gotten them ready. I might have gotten them ready during the break. So I put some of those out. I put out past award winners, award nominees, that kind of thing, and just anything that I wanted the kids to maybe consider reading in the new year. And then I made these oversized bookmarks, and I'll give you a link for how to get these, but you don't need these. You could just use a piece of paper. Really all you need is somewhere for kids to write down books that they're interested in reading. So they're making a reading resolution list, books that they want to read in the new year. And I put a space on one of my versions with call numbers so that they could find them later, because you might not have the book displays out forever. And then one of my versions has just room for, maybe for the younger kids, room for the titles of the books. You can, if the kids will let you, you could collect these and put them on your Happy New Year bulletin board for a couple of weeks. This will get people stopping by and looking at the titles on other people's lists and getting ideas for books that they could read too, that they want to read too. Anytime that you can share book recommendations like that, I found that it really generates an interest in not just the kids, but the teachers and the staff too, any parents who come through. It gets them talking about good books and books they've read, books they want to read. If you don't want to put the bookmarks, the lists on your bulletin board, you could get some sticky notes. This is one I printed with a template that I have, but you could use just blank sticky notes for reading resolutions. And you want to give kids a chance to make these personal. So it could be maybe they want to try a new series. Maybe they want to read a certain genre of books. I had kids that wanted to finish a series they were working their way through. Maybe it's read 20 minutes a night, or maybe it's to try a new graphic novel. Or if they've been reading lots of graphic novels, maybe it's that they want to try reading something that's not a graphic novel. But you want to have a conversation that is inviting a lot of input from your students and letting them just set a reading goal for themselves. This isn't the same as a reading goal that they might set with Accelerated Reader or that they might have to set for their class, but really something that they personally really want to work on for reading for the year. So anyway, that's reading resolutions, and I think it's a great way to start off. And really, as you can tell from what I've said, it doesn't require a lot of prep. Just set a bunch of books out and make it exciting for your students. I wonder if anyone has tried this before. If you have, go ahead and chime in on the comments. Another thing that's coming up this month that I think is really timely and good to hook into is Chinese New Year. Sometimes this falls in February, sometimes it falls in January this year. And of course, the reason that it falls at different times is because of the phases of the moon, the lunar calendar. This year, the Chinese New Year starts on January 22nd. And the reason that I started doing something with Chinese New Year is because I was collaborating with the music teacher in my building. So if you have a music teacher or another special area teacher that might want to work with you on this is really a fun way to kind of get your whole school excited about something that they might not know very much about. Here in Montana, kids aren't usually exposed to Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year. And so we had a great music teacher who's also a friend of mine who always enriched her music classes with cultural information. And so she did a lot around Chinese New Year. And she showed books from our library. She showed videos of parades and dances. And she taught the kids a lot about the traditions behind the holiday. And then on the first day of Chinese New Year, we would have a parade in the lunchroom, and the kids made lanterns, and they had a dragon in the parade. It was really fun. Anyway, so to go along with that, I made a bulletin board in the library, and I also did a lesson around a read aloud every year that emphasized Chinese New Year. So there's some great read alouds, and I can share a link to you in here for you to another blog post. But some of my recent favorites have been the Neon Monster and No Year of the Cat. There's also a lot more that are really great, but I always would make displays of Chinese New Year books or literature, folk tales, nonfiction about China even. And then on the bulletin board, I would show what the zodiac animal was for the year. So this year, it's the year of the rabbit, but I would show all the other years too, because kids and adults love to see which animal they were born under. And when you read some books in the library too that go with that, then they can really be thinking of that. Like when we read No Year of the Cat, it had all of the animals in it that were from the zodiac. And so that made it really interesting. So anyway, that is just a fun kind of awareness thing to hook in a story time. You could have a bulletin board with the animals. If you have someone in your school who is interested in this topic too, it's great to team up, because then what happened at my schools, we had library class where they were getting a little bit of the information, and then music class where they were getting more of the information too. And so it was kind of a uniting theme, which was great. Speaking of uniting themes, January is a great time to start research for one thing. So a lot of people start big research projects right now, and it might be an animal research project. A lot of elementary classrooms do animal research. Or one thing that I recommend are mini research projects around winter sports. Now, last year, this really took off for me when it was the Winter Olympics, and kids are really interested in the Olympics, of course, on Olympic years. It's not an Olympic year this year, but many research projects around winter sports. They're quick, they're easy. You can use the Olympics website. You can use your online databases like World Book Kids or Pebble Go, and kids can do just like bite-sized research. They can pick a sport. I don't have any of my supplies here, but I'll just kind of show you a picture here on my blog post. So I did cards where they could choose a topic like alpine skiing or bobsleigh, cross country skiing, curling, any of those. And I had them work in pairs or on teams. Now, this is great if you want to just hit some research skills and you don't want it to be long and drawn out. You could do it all in one class, or you could take one class to do the research, and the next class people could take turns telling what they've learned. And they can even use the pictures from the Olympics website to show the class. This kind of thing is great here in Montana or in any states that experience snow, because we have kids who actually participate in these sports. So I have a lot of kids who are skiers or snowboarders. I've got kids who are hockey players. And then there's, they love to sled and do a lot of different things in the snow. I've got ice skaters. And so this just kind of can be a quick project, either about something that they relate to or something that they'd like to try. But if you're not in a snowy state, it's still a great way for kids to learn about something, right? That they're not as familiar with. So maybe consider a mini research project or a longer research project too. You could always do animals, or next month is President's Day. You could do presidents, you could do Martin Luther King. January is a great time to start some research. Also, I'm just going to kind of scroll down this blog post. It's also a great time to review library catalog skills, searching the catalog, locating information, diving deep into different types of searches and those kinds of things. I liked to use seasonal subject cards that would be interesting to the kids to look up, and something that is timely and on their mind at the time. That always seemed to get them a little more excited. And so I really recommend that. And I think those are my recommendations. I'm just going to double check over here. Something maybe to have on your radar as you go through the month is coming up in February is the Super Bowl, and I like to do later in January a unit on advertising techniques, because get a lot of TV watching if kids are into football or their families into football. So it's a good time to analyze those commercials. And also just make sure that you are keeping up with your book displays. And it's always fun to involve the kids in making the book displays, but there's lots of great winter topics like Chinese New Year, Martin Luther King Day, the Super Bowl, winter sports, that kind of thing. So I don't see any questions. I'm going to let you go, but I want to thank you again for joining me. And I hope you have a great January. If you're headed back to school tomorrow, I'm wishing you all the best as you start again fresh in the new year. And if you still have a little more time on your winter break, then I hope you enjoy it. And as always, you can drop a question here or contact me through my Facebook page, which is The Trapped Librarian. You can also find me on Instagram at The Trapped Librarian and at trappedlibrarian.org. Thanks, and have a great night.